I'm here with Lucas Ross, who's in charge of education and promotions at American Banjo Museum, and he's here to talk about Americana Fest. How you doing?
Hey, I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Cool. Can you tell us a little bit about Americana Fest and like how long it's been around and what it is and all of that?
Yeah, well, this would be, I think, our 5th annual Americana Fest, which is a music festival that focuses on Americana music, incorporates the banjo, but in different styles. We have old-time music, bluegrass, there's country and different styles of it, even kind of like jazz, fun music like that too. And then whatever it is that I do, I don't know, but I use a banjo. But this will be also the first year that we will be doing it virtual. So it's kind of like our 5th, but our 1st. So we're figuring that all out. And at this time, we're kind of making sure, with the pandemic and everything, so many concerts have translated over to a digital platform. At first, the bar was pretty, I don't say the bar was low. It was everybody gave everybody a lot of grace as in presentation, but now we've kind of gotten to where it's like people are figuring out how to do really good sound and presentations live. So we're trying to make sure that we have something that's both looks good, sounds good, and it's easily accessible for everybody, whatever platform they want to use.
Yeah, easy to get to, easy to figure out where to go and see what you want to see, as well as all the technical aspects of kind of like a studio setup where you have the good lighting and all of that.
Right, which we've been doing. We've been live streaming whenever we do concerts and stuff here at the museum. That's where I office. This is just a typical office, by the way. I know it's like Pee-wee's Playhouse and the Muppet Show mixed together. Gonzo's just back there checking his phone. He's
nice,
obsessed. You can't tell he has a Golden Girls phone cover. But we have it was originally a Shakey's Pizza Room. In the 60s, they had the Shakey's Pizza Parlors, and that's what our performance room was developed. Now it's called Your Father's Mustache, which was another club there. But all the bands would perform on that. People would come in. It holds about, 40 to sometimes 60 people standing, and then a little bit of overflow outside into the galleries. And it's going to be different to not do that. Now, we've been doing a few of those here and there. We've started a Virtual at Noon series that ran for the 3 months of the pandemic when we were closed, and we're performing to nobody. But we had all these viewers from all around the world watching. We had people that were getting exposed to the museum for the first time that wouldn't otherwise see it, and not to make light of the dire situation that we were in. But it was kind of it was a nice little silver lining mixed in there with kind of a scary time, making new friends and being exposed and connected with people that wouldn't get to participate otherwise. So that's been really a neat thing. So with that whole setup, doing our Americana Fest virtually is going to be, hopefully we'll reach even more audiences than we did before.
Yeah, that's definitely been a big thing about this pandemic, is we thought we were global before, but then all of our activities were more local than we had thought about before. And so now it's like, 12 people from 12 countries are watching us.
Right.
Wow, maybe they didn't know that there was an American Banjo Museum in Oklahoma City and what it's about and all of that.
And a lot of times, and the scare is with anything, especially that is that depends on patrons and stuff, that sometimes it's like giving away what you have with the fear of them never coming to visit. But it's kind of changed, and especially now with new younger adults that were traveling and stuff. They're a lot more apt to see everything and then say, okay, yeah, I want to go see that in person. And it kind of comes from, for a while, we kind of held the reins kind of tight. We're like, well, we don't want to show everything, because then what if you never come? If we show it, we give it away, they won't come. But it's been exactly counter to that, because we have all these people now that are like, oh, I've seen it in video form, but I got to see it in person. When I think about it, like that's how I feel about a lot of things and stuff like that. So that's been kind of neat to see how that whole thing's transpired, and just really how everybody's up their video game. I mean, everyone from bands to local companies and churches and charities are figuring out how to do. I'm hosting a banquet virtually in a few weeks. And so we're doing it all through Zoom, and we're going to do awards and everything that way. So I'm going to wear a tux and go all out where I am. But it's cool to see how we do it. And you guys too. I mean, congratulations, Gazette. You guys are just doing great with all your video stuff. I saw what you did during Dead Center. What a neat way that Dead Center was able to transfer their festival into a digital format, and it worked really well for them.
I feel like it is making it way more accessible to people in general. And, you know, people who maybe are stuck at home all the time, or maybe you live in, you know, northeastern Oklahoma, or, you know, in Texas, or, you know, you transplanted to another part of the country, or, you know, and you can visit these things virtually and participate. And it's just awesome. I think it's really great. So how is the festival coming online?
Well, we have no idea, but we'll figure something out. No, we're trying to iron out a few of those things. Like I said, we've been doing some live streams like to Facebook and some YouTube and platforms like that, which will probably be embedded there as well. But we have a multi-camera setup in our parlor room. So the bands will come in and perform here, like they normally would, but we'll just be doing it to these cameras and broadcasting it out over our social media platforms, primarily Facebook Live, because you can interact a lot well there. But we're doubling up on the streams. It'll either be embedded there through Facebook Facebook, YouTube, and then on our just on our website, American Banjo Museum.com. We'll have just kind of a hub there for people that like, I don't do any of that stuff. I just want the website. They can go there and they can embed it. But if they like to do the commenting and that aspect, they can go there. If they really want to read some terrible comments, you can go over to YouTube and just, oh man, lose all faith in humankind.
Yes.
I have to say, I have seen a lot of people kind of going out of their way nowadays, trying to be positive and
to be nice.
I'm just noticing that a little bit more. But you know, when we give people the opportunity to say whatever they want, it's so easy to be negative. And right now people are hurting. And you mentioned like bringing people together and giving them something to do, especially people that were already maybe in a position where they couldn't leave the house. Now they're getting to really interact in a way that they didn't get to before. So it's been kind of neat to bring a little bit of light to people. And we got a great setup. We have the bands that are performing. Byron Berline Band is kind of our big headliner, and they played at they didn't play at our very first one, but they played at a few in the past. And they're great. We love that band. They're incredible worldwide. I mean, Byron's world renowned for his fiddle playing, and we have him right here in Oklahoma. So many people don't know, like, he's a local treasure, but he's a national treasure, like looked at from everybody from Vince Gill to, I mean, he worked with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he recorded with the Rolling Stones. And we just love Byron. That's where I got my band, my Gibson banjo I bought from his shop. And I just love that guy. So them play. They're very entertaining. And I even I didn't really grow up in a country music or bluegrass household. I married into it, and I was baptized in bluegrass. I picked the banjo because I liked Kermit and Steve Martin for comedy reasons. But I mean, I've just fallen in love with the bluegrass and really the Americana sound. I'm not really a diehard country fan, but I love this sound. And man, live music, I appreciate it no matter what the style is, because there's something about being there in the moment. And we're still going to try to bring that virtually.
Do you think that you guys will continue more of the virtual stuff in the next few years, like after? I
think so. We've kind of dabbled in that a little bit, giving especially members of the museum. We have really getting a membership to the museum is like after 3 trips, it's paid for itself, but it gives you access to a lot of the events like Americana Fest and stuff. But I think what we'll do is continue to live stream on these platforms for all the events that we can here, unless an artist has a conflict that does that or something. But for the most part, everybody likes it, and because it helps everyone. You know, it's an easy way to share a link or throw up their information so they can support those artists and buy their music and stuff.
Yeah, and maybe you can get interested in something that maybe you weren't sure if you were interested in before. Right. Maybe you would never think, oh yeah, I'm going to go listen to some banjo music.
And there is a stigma with the banjo of the whole, like, either backwoods or the hillbilly or the dueling banjos or the deliverance. But there's a lot of really rich history in the instrument. Again, I came from it I heard Kermit play Rainbow Connection when I was a kid, and I didn't even know what the instrument was. I just loved the sound of that. When I heard it, it just clicked in my brain. Mm-hmm. Fast forward, I never thought that I'd be playing it, much less working for the instrument. And getting I even got to work with Kermit over the past year a couple times. The actual Kermit, and let me tell you, folks, he's real. Some people say he's a puppet. The correct term is handheld American. He's very cool. And actually now our museum is open. Well, we're not going to be doing this concert in person. Yeah. Our museum is open. We have to limit to about 10 people at a time if we ever have a big rush, but you're required to wear masks and stuff, but you can come in and see our new displays. We have a Women of the Banjo display that's really neat. It tells all the historically significant, and there's so many, we couldn't include all of them. There's so many prominent female banjo players mm-hmm. that have been taking this instrument from its roots all the way up to now, and then circling back with artists like Rhianna Giddens and others that are playing that early style banjo. Because a lot of people don't know that the banjo, that's called like an American instrument, and while it was developed here the way that we know it, it came to us from Africa. It was played by enslaved African people when they were here, and they developed that based on memories of instruments mm-hmm. From before, and slowly play that for a very long time. And then white audiences started hearing this, and it was, I can only imagine, a taboo thing to play that. And then for a while, it was an instrument that women were not allowed to touch because it was mm-hmm. not a dignified instrument. And then it transitioned into this classical instrument, and it transitioned into the jazz, the pulse of the jazz and ragtime music. And then they started making them for women. You know, they started putting a lot of frills and things because they thought it'd be more appealing and stuff. But I don't know. And now, I mean, people want those pre-war banjos, no matter what style that you play. And so it's really neat to see that history, especially with the current eyes on civil rights and things like that. The banjo instrument has been right there growing up with America. It's a tough story, and there's a lot of hard story to that and a lot of beauty in it. And just like everything else, we listen and we learn and we apply. We've worked with some really great scholars from some other museums, the Underground Railroad Museum and some others that have helped oversee, help, and advise us with presentation. And that constantly evolves with what people want to see and more, because honestly, a lot of people think banjo and they walk in the doors and they're all like, oh, right, Kermit the Frog, Earl Scruggs. And they see like, whoa, I did not know this. I didn't know that it came from this. And some people, it's a shock. And it's just like when you start to think of a lot of iconic things in our world and in our country, and you start to realize where those roots come from. And it doesn't mean that an instrument itself is bad. Mm. It can be used for so much good, and it brings people together. And during the Civil War, there were times that like secretly black and white banjo players would meet and exchange lyrics and songs, and they would see, I'm sure it was white guys learning a lot more from the black guys, I would just kind of assume, but we have a lot of those songs because of that. And I'm not trying to justify or whitewash the circumstance it was in, but there were these times that an instrument and music could just bring people together in dire situations. Mm-hmm. And I've kind of gone on to a tangent, but it's been a real interesting thing. And it's interesting now for people that are coming in as we've reopened, just like the world is having this washover with so much stuff of not just washing our hands over the past 3 months. We're like, eyes are opening to a lot of things that a lot of people didn't think about before, maybe, or it wasn't comfortable to think about before. And it's easier to not think about those things with our country and with instruments and other things like that. But it would be wrong to hide it. It'd be wrong to ignore those things for many things, the fear of repeating history, for the disrespect of those musicians. And the sad thing is we don't know so much of that history was not recorded. Right. So we pay tribute as much as we can. There's a beautiful painting we have a copy of in our entry when you come in called The Banjo Lesson, and it depicts what we can assume is a African-American enslaved person sitting on a porch with maybe a grandson, showing him how to play the banjo. Mm-hmm. And it's painted by an African-American artist in the 1800s. And I think it was, from what I understand, from what I've studied, and I could be wrong, but it was painted still life. So they paint him. So it's always been used as an example of how light and shadow was just painted so beautifully in still life form. And but that's kind of a dedication from what we know, and until we learn more information to present more. But that's one of the kind of launch pads to show that respect. While we don't know who those names are, we really respect that, and we try to do that with everything that we do.
Yeah, I think it's really important, especially for museums and things like that, to start thinking about, like, okay, when you think of banjo now, you think of a bunch of white guys. And like, that's just the first thing that comes. But a lot of our society and a lot of our culture, we've taken from the people who've lived here. And it's important to go through it and recognize these things. And I think what's great about banjo music is that it does cross all genres of, you know, blues. I was looking at the lineup for the Americana Fest, and all of them were so different. I mean, it's all banjo music, but it's it all has a different sound. I think, wasn't one a blues, more of a bluesy kind of?
Yeah, we have, well, we've got Byron, of course. We have Center Friends that has, they're featuring Aaron Jonah Lewis, and they have kind of a different style like that too. Johnny Byer does it's like a jazz style playing, but not so much like the jazz that you'd think later on. It's like kind of the early jazz, the ragtime jazz. And Johnny, who's our executive director, but he is like, and I was working along with the museum for years before I really realized how big of a deal he is, and he won't let on. But he's like one of the most prolific banjo players, tenor banjo players, if I'm using that word correctly. He's really good, and he's very versed and educated in it. All the imagery and the artwork you see in the museum, he did. But on top of all that, he is a very accomplished banjo performer that's performed for years in different parts of the world, and they were able to get him here in Oklahoma. So he will be performing that day too. And he does a great show and gives you a full spectrum of that sound. Even if you think like, I don't really think I like the old like 1920s jazzy music and stuff. It's so good. And he's so charming. It's really interesting to listen to. And he gives a good presentation of those songs.
Yeah.
Wayne Cantwell is another performer who's a good friend and performs here regularly. And he does a old time music show, and he plays some different instruments, but he plays some of those really early songs that have continued out. And as the banjo took off, and he gives some history to that, as the banjo started to spread in America early on, there were a lot of these songs, but as it kind of evolved and kind of split off into the ragtime jazz age and all these things this way, all the way up to where it was the most popular instrument at one time in America. And then by World War II, by the Great Depression, they couldn't justify making banjos when everything needed to be used to help for war efforts. Yeah. And then the cost of banjos became so expensive. If you weren't already playing one or an accomplished banjo player, you couldn't get one. It was easier. It was cheaper to buy a guitar. And so the Glenn Miller bands and stuff started replacing banjo with guitar and stuff with big band sounds. But these guys up in like kind of the hills and the Appalachian guys, they were still playing that banjo early style. I have my banjo here. Do you want me to show you a little example?
Yes,
is that okay?
Please. Yes, please.
Okay, mine's got a design. That's the other thing about the banjos, especially in the 20s. They were decorated like to the nines. Mine is not one of those fancy ones, but it is decorated to tell my story. This is honeycomb because my parents are beekeepers. In Minko, which, like most people's parents are beekeepers, right? But the early style of playing was similar. It was a little bit more, it was finger picking. There was let's see. I mean, Skip to My Lou was a hit.
Yeah.
People were like, play Skip to My Lou. I don't know. I can only say. So there's that style. Then there's a clawhammer style, which a lot of people still play. And Wayne Cantwell does this really well. And you use the front of your fingers instead of picking. You. I don't know if you can hear that or not.
So it's more of a full sound.
Yeah, and it can also be really melancholy and soft and stuff. So those are those early styles, and Wayne does a great. Wayne plays a lot of instruments really, really well. So
Yeah.
It'll be a really neat thing. And then I'll do my comedy, banjo music stuff. And mine's, I gear a lot more kind of towards kids, but it just depends on who the audience is. And since I don't really know exactly who the audience is, I just do a little bit of everything. And it's a lot of fun. But I'm really here just to shine a light on the real talented musicians that are a lot more accomplished than me. I've still got a lot to learn, but it's an honor to get to be here and be a little footnote in this building.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a rich history of music in, I mean, the world basically, but also in this country where we've kind of, you know, things have evolved and
Right.
people moving in, and we've borrowed things from everywhere. And it's really, I think it's important to preserve it and to keep it going.
Yeah.
Even though it's not like what's on the radio right now.
Sure. And that's kind of part of the museum's, the mission is to preserve and promote the instrument and to continue to educate people about that. And just one of the many facets of American culture. I mean, this is the only banjo museum in the whole world. So a lot of people in Oklahoma are like, oh yeah, we got a banjo museum. Okay. I mean, that's how I was. And I love the banjo. I was like, when I first heard about it, people were like, have you been to the banjo museum? I'm like, yeah, I should go down there. I was just thinking, like, I'd seen some pictures and I was sure that it was nice.
Yeah.
I had no idea the state of the art facility it is, and the fact that this is the only one in the whole world. Steve Martin has walked through our halls before and even donated a banjo. This is cool, and I hope it happens. We have the Women of the Banjo exhibit. We're working on securing Dolly Parton's banjo and one of her outfits. So whenever that comes, I will let you know.
Yeah, very cool.
But it's neat to see that support there, and really that Oklahoma has it. It's kind of special that they chose Oklahoma because it's just kind of in the center. Didn't really have a defined music. I mean, we're associated a lot with country music and stuff like that, but there wasn't really something that just was defining. If the museum was put in New Orleans, it would really lean towards that Dixieland jazz style. Yeah. If it was put in Nashville, it'd be considered more in country or bluegrass and other parts. And so Oklahoma was just kind of like a good central place. And swing music, or country swing, originated in North Texas, southern Oklahoma, and they used a 4-string banjo to strum. And that's actually kind of cool too. So Johnny Byer, our executive director who plays the tenor jazz thing, he will sometimes sit in. I don't know if he'll do it on this show or not, but he'll sit in with Byron Berline and they'll do some country swing and he'll play the banjo just like it was in those original styles of some Oklahoma original music. So it's kind of cool.
That's so great. Did you guys have the lineup set and we're just kind of like, hey, now that things are changed?
Yeah, and we have a couple of really, and I said everybody's going to be on our stage. Center Friends aren't going to be traveling here. They're out of town. And we'll bring people in from different places a lot of times. We like to have Oklahoma artists. But the Center Friends, they will be broadcasting from wherever they are. And it won't be just one long video feed. We'll keep posting the links throughout the day. And I think we'll just have a central hub page on our on our website. If you just go to AmericanBanjoMuseum.com, you can watch them all. But no, this was a lineup that was set up. And then about the time we locked everybody in, for sure, was whenever everything went into lockdown. And so we were kind of wondering how we were going to do it. We'd have some wonderful grant money and help from the Oklahoma Arts Council, Bank First, and Bricktown, and the National Endowment of the Arts, and News 4 had all been on to help us like they normally did, and even a little bit more than before. And so we worked with them, and they're like, you know, this is kind of a normal thing, and they want to see it happen too. And so they worked with us to be able to still pay our talent and have it. The difference is going to be usually it's a ticketed event. Unless you're a museum member, we're going to make it available for everybody to watch. We're not going to have a paywall for it or anything.
That's so great. And maybe it will help grow the festival.
Yeah, totally. And we can't wait for the time that we can do it again. And you know, we even thought about the fact of, well, maybe by the time this comes around, we could do some outdoor events and stuff. Like last thing we want to do is subject anybody to not being safe, and however people feel about it. It's just one of those things. It's like we have many patrons that could be very susceptible. I mean, and everybody, we're figuring this out. The truth is, and this is a safe way for us to still do that whole thing. And you guys can be in the comfort of your own home or wherever you want to watch. You could be sitting outside streaming it on your phone if you want. and still hear some great music.
Yeah. So the festival is
It's Saturday, June 27th.
Yes.
And we will start the broadcast around 11 in the morning, and we'll play everybody's act, or we won't play it. They'll actually be live, either here or wherever they're located, broadcasting through about 5 o'clock that day. So it'll be a whole day full of music that you can enjoy and be involved in.
Yeah, and hopefully learn some great history.
I never thought I'd ever be playing. My parents think it's hilarious that I've played and recorded like bluegrass albums and stuff. They're like, this is just so weird that we never thought anybody. I was raised that rock and roll was from heaven, and it was like opposite, from the olden days. Yeah, my dad was from New Mexico. My mom just didn't really listen to country music, and everybody in my hometown, that's all it was. I mean, I was raised up around everybody listening to Garth and Reba McEntire and everything. So we all knew what it was. When we got CMT, do you remember whenever I guess the country music television came on?
Yeah.
No, you're probably too young to know this one.
No, I remember. Yeah, and I grew
Oklahoma?
up. Well, sort of, yeah, sort of. I went to middle school and high school in southern Oklahoma.
Okay.
In the country.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was all, everyone listened to country and everyone loved all that stuff. And I was like, I like punk music.
Yeah.
And classical, because I play
listening.
clarinet too.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And you're welcome here too. You could join us, you could just sit in. But that was always it. I remember whenever country music television came on and they got it in Oklahoma, and my sister and I would discovered it one time. It was like this, what is this? And we're watching it and Mom and Dad are coming, change the channel to MTV or something else. Put on The Simpsons.
We committed a crime.
Yeah, it's like it was this thing because we just thought that. Anyway, it was just really funny. My dad was always like, they just sound really nasally. But he'd listen to Bob Dylan and all these guys. You couldn't even understand them, and they were even more nasally. And so sadly, I didn't get to experience a lot of that. And I still have I do have a big appreciation and love for the classic country performers and everybody, and so it's really neat. I love it on days like this when they come together. I don't deserve to be on this bill, but I'm honored to do it. And this was going to be my first big time to play. Usually I'm playing outside in the direct sunlight for the children. And this was going to be the year that I got to come inside on the stage, but now nobody's going to be in here with me. So I think that I jinxed it probably.
Oh, no, I'm sure that's not true. How long have you been playing?
I started about 10 years ago this year. My wife surprised me and got me tickets to see Steve Martin whenever he went on tour with his bluegrass show. And I never thought I'd get to see him live. And then at the end of it, I was like, I'm going to finally I had access to a banjo in high school, and I didn't really know how to play it. And it was before the internet and YouTube where you could find lessons. And in Minko, there wasn't anybody that was teaching. It was lucky I found one. And I'd use it as a prop and stuff, but I didn't really learn. But when we went and saw Steve Martin, I was like, I'm going to get a banjo and I'm going to learn how to play, and I'm going to spend a year learning how to play, and I'm going to meet him. I just decided after I saw him on the front row, I was like, I'm going to meet him. And so I spent a year, I got a banjo, and I started on his birthday, which is August 14th. And I started playing the banjo, and I used some of his music because I knew it really well. Because Steve Martin's for a lot of people that don't know, the comedian, he's an amazing and accomplished banjo player and has written Grammy Award-winning stuff, and even a Broadway musical that they did here last year, Bright Star. And he's just really good.
Yeah. He's also an author too.
And an author, yeah. He really admires paintings, and he does a lot of different things with his role. But he just has always come back to that banjo. He's been playing since he was doing comedy in the 70s. He would use it as a prop and kind of joke around and then do his jokes. And so now he'll do he was doing these bluegrass shows and telling jokes in between. So it was completely flipped. And either way, I was like, I'm going to meet him. And I started learning to play the banjo, and I spent a whole year, and I ended up learning to play the banjo. And a year came and went, and I didn't meet him. But 9 days after my goal, I did. That's what's so stupid. If you wait for a second, I got a picture right here.
Okay.
Right now. So this is at Tulsa.
That's great.
And I've got to run in with him a few different times. And when he came to the museum, everybody was like, okay, Lucas, he's going to come visit the museum. We're going to close down to everybody. And I was like, okay. They're like, you can be here. Just don't be weird. I'm like, I won't. I had this fear that was like, oh no, he's going to know who I am. because I've only been writing to him since I was like 14, but I just appreciate him. And really, I liked his comedy. And I always wanted to be able to thank him for sharing his talents to where I was able to like learn the instrument. I've made so many great friends. I've had so many good experiences. I have this job I wouldn't have landed at if I hadn't fell in love with this instrument.
Yeah.
And had such an appreciation for everything from the American history that we talked about. And I just really, it was all because I just was like, I think I'm going to learn to play. And so every time I've met him technically 3 times, and every time all I say is, hey, you tweeted at me once. It's like, I couldn't even think of, all I got to say is thank you. Thank you for sharing your talents. I couldn't do it. And he donated one of his banjos to us at Christmas. It's now on display, and you can see that here. And when he did, he sent this book back for me. He went and found, he had one more copy of his autobiography in his house, and he sent me this, and it has his autograph on it. And he sent me a little note and said, put this next to the restraining order that you should be receiving. Anyway, but it's been a joy to get to work here with the museum. And also on a sidebar, and I've been rambling a lot, I don't know, you can cut all this out and delete it if you want.
I think people enjoyed the conversation.
I hope so.
Especially if they've been locked away in their houses.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah.
I'll say that my wife started a nonprofit a little over 12 years ago now, working with an orphanage in Africa that rescue kids out of destitution and current like slavery on fishing boats and stuff like that. And they give them an education and help they work with an established place. It's not America coming in and saying, here, everybody be like this, and no criticism on anything like that. But it's a really neat group that she gets to work with. And it was just her. She saw this thing one time on TV, I think like on some show about this orphanage. And she's like, I want to help. So we started raising money and sending it. And she ended up going, she's been like 10 times. I've been 3 times. And this last year, the director of, well, I guess the year before last, the director of the school, Fred Asari, came to Oklahoma, and he came to the museum and saw everything. And I was like really thinking about what he thought about the presentation from his perspective, because it's different, not being in America. And he was like, this is really, really something that the kids in Africa, I want them to know this too about American history and this. And so whenever I went back last year, he said, hey, bring your banjo and bring your kids program that you do there and teach our kids about the banjo. And I was like, Fred, I am the last person to come over there and do this. And he's like, no, it'll be great. And so I was really nervous about it. I was like, this is like, just like a white guy going over and, and
yeah.
But it was, a lot of the kids didn't know that about that history, or if they did, they wanted to see it, and they were showing me things. And I took this travel banjo, and they were playing and stuff. And it's a very impoverished part of Africa. And so a lot of them they don't get to get their hands on instruments alone, much less a banjo. So it was really it was a neat experience. I learned, I tried to learn as much as I could. I learned a lot. And it was something that I treasure. They're very good. They're friends of ours. And it's just, if you ever have the opportunity to travel or to see that, it really reminds you how small this world is. And just like everybody laughs, you might laugh a little bit different, but we're all kind of laughing at the same thing in a way, and we're all can enjoy things together. And those have been some treasured friends that we love right now who, with the pandemic and stuff, they're reaching out to us being like, are you guys okay? And we're like, well, are you guys okay? And they're like, oh yeah, we're fine where we are because it's over there. And we think Africa is a certain thing, but it's so much more spread up than the way that the maps kind of look.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was a really interesting experience to do that. And I hope and pray that I was able to tell them about the musicians that are currently using it now, and that they could, that I did it in the right light and the right way, and not whitewashing anything, but also telling it in my correct place based on what I was told and how to present it. And they were so in love with the whole thing with the banjo. They all made paper banjos all week, and they were designing them with their stories to tell about their family and different things like that. And then their art teacher, they made art projects, and they were sending me pictures. The art teacher has Instagram, and she's sending me all these pictures. It's like from Africa back and forth. And it was so cool. And I can't show the video, but I'll tell you about it. the kids there, on one day we were just drawing I was drawing pictures and then of banjos and different things in their art class. And then she was like, we've got some more time, just teach them how to draw something. I was like, well, I can always draw Kermit the Frog. So I drew Kermit the Frog. So I posted them on social media, and some people that work with the Muppets and Disney saw it, and we got a special greeting video from the Kermit the Frog to send to the kids to say how neat it was that he saw them drawing pictures of him. And it was kind of a cool thing to do. And that's not the reason why I do those trips, but it was kind of really cool, exciting that these kids got this video, and they're like, well, you can't post on social media or share it, but we want them to see this. I thought that was really cool for them to make that time. It's a cool thing. I'm proud to get to be here, and I hope in this time that we're a resource for some education, that we're also here to learn and continue to strive and do better in everything that we do.
Yeah, and bring people together, like with this festival.
Right. And the conversations are what, hopefully the conversations will happen, and we listen and learn, and I'm here to listen and learn from all of this too. I can't wait. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yes, it's going to be great. Well, thank you so much for talking to me today. I'm scared that this thing's going to cut off.
Oh, okay. Hey, thanks so much for having me.